This is Off Track.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Yep, what's up?
What's your guys' take on Reese's peanut butter cups?
For them.
Generally pro, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think they're inferior to Reese's Pieces.
I disagree. Reese's Pieces suck.
This is exactly where I was going with this. Peanut butter cups, terrific.
Is that a mini one, or did you just become a giant?
One of those two things, yes. But yeah.
Are you giant in all areas?
I'm glad you just can make sure to still eat while recording this.
Dude, once again.
Wait, are you saying you prefer pieces over cups?
Yes.
That's such an insane statement.
I like the candy shell, and I like the movie E.T. Both of those
Then
things
eat an
combined
M&M.
to make... Yeah, but I like the Reese's Pieces more than the M&M. You guys are all wrong.
Peanut butter M&Ms are better than Reese's Pieces.
Completely agree.
I don't know if I have enough experience with peanut butter M&Ms to have an opinion on that.
And pretzel M&Ms are
pretzel
also
M&Ms
better
are fire. Let's be clear here. Those
honestly,
are,
all M&Ms are better than Reese's Pieces. Reese's Pieces
Yes.
is like a Temu version of an M&M.
Disagree. I think
diet M&M.
Reese's Pieces is better than a regular M&M.
No, but peanut butter cup
That might be the only one.
It's probably
Regular
one of
M&M.
the best, probably one of the best candies out there.
It's one of the best chocolate inventions, I think, out there.
100%.
It's but you can't mess with the ratio. They did well with the thin ones. The thin ones still maintain a good chocolate to peanut butter ratio, but the whole like double stuff ones, it's too much.
The OG is still, I
too
think,
much.
the best. I've never seen the like condensed little mini, not thin version.
Oh, like what I just had?
Like it still had the girth, but it wasn't as You know,
it's like I think it's like a Halloween version.
I don't love using girth when describing stuff that we're talking about.
Why?
I don't know. it just felt weird.
About stuff that you're
Putting in your mouth.
Yeah.
Putting in your
Why are
mouth
you-
is where I
This
was
is a
going.
family show, Tim.
Is it?
God,
your mind
Tim, why do you have
up.
to take it that way?
I've never heard girth used in a different context.
Do you want to know else something I noticed the other day?
Girth.
I know
of a
that you
tree.
raced an IndyCar race, and we'll talk about that in a second.
You talked about an IndyCar race.
I did.
I watched an IndyCar race.
Look at
Did
that.
you?
We actually have IndyCar stuff to talk about.
I
But we'll
did.
get there. He did because he was texting me questions. He was like, "Is this good for Alex or bad for Alex?"
Yeah.
That's most of the questions I get from
Thanks,
Tim.
Tim.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
He's like, "I don't understand what's happening. Is this good or bad?"
Yeah. I don't
So
pretend to know what the I'm talking about on here.
No, you're very public about the fact that you actually know very little about racing for someone that's been largely immersed in it for the better part of a decade now.
Yeah, we've been doing the show forever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I was showering the other day, and it's where most of my best thoughts happen.
Speaking of girthy.
Dude,
Jesus, Tim.
what's wrong with you?
It was right there.
So
It wasn't.
I got a shower. I grabbed my towel, and then I realized that I have like such a specific towel off like choreography.
Mhm.
Do you notice that like when you grab a towel and you're toweling off if you get out of the shower, it's like the exact same movements?
Yeah, 100%.
No, not at all.
No, you just like
No,
completely freewheel it. You're just shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
That's wild. See, because I'm like, man, is there other things that you do every day that's exactly just? And I'm like brushing my teeth. I alter it. There's maybe different strategies I use on different days or whatever. But if I get out of the shower, it is the exact same series of movements. I mean, I could time it down. I'm sure I do it. It's plus or minus 2 seconds every time.
Really?
It's the exact same. Yeah.
I think the only thing that I do the same, and I got out of the shower 25 minutes ago, is I dry my face off first.
I do my hair. I do my head
I do
first.
hair
But
first.
but I don't think that anything that happens after that is the same.
On the hair, then it goes like around the neck. You do the one arm.
don't do that
top,
at
bottom,
all.
armpit. Then you do the other arm, top, bottom. Then you like do the chest. Then you roll it down the back. Do like the back dry till it's around your
Never
waist.
done that.
Oh,
No. Honestly, I just dry my face and then I get dressed.
that seems very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm just a little moist.
Constant state of swamp ass with your wet bottom. Terrible. That's just awful.
No, I don't do that.
This goes around online. You have to do your privates last, and then the towel forgets by the next day.
But your privates are
Because
clean,
you don't want to.
so it doesn't
I know, but
really
you don't want to
matter.
start with that. You don't want to start there and then go face.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. The towel forgets by the next day. Oh man.
How often do you wash
Oh.
your towels?
I try and do it once a week.
I'm once
Yeah,
every
it sounds-
3 days, probably 3-4 days.
Yeah, I pray once a week probably sounds right. Probably should
I mean,
do.
you're never home enough, James. So it's
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
you only shower 3 times a week, anyways, in your
How
own
often
house.
do I do my towels? Whenever housekeeping comes in.
Right.
Although you know what, I will say I predominantly don't. I opt out of housekeeping pretty much everywhere I go now. If I'm there for like
Interesting.
4 days, like if it's a Thursday to Sunday IndyCar weekend, I will not get housekeeping.
Why?
No, I want a freshly
doesn't make
made
any
bed,
sense.
not by me, every day. I
It's
want
just
yeah.
saving towel energy and water. And
Are you kidding me? You do it for the
I also-
environment?
It's partly for the environment and partly just like I don't know. I don't need people in my stuff. You know.
What do you have that you're protecting?
No, it's not. It's just. I don't know. It's just strangers coming in your bedroom. It's weird.
Dude,
Yep,
that
I'm all for
I
it.
couldn't disagree. I think this is the thing that I'm going to disagree with you more than anything that we have discussed in our entirety of our friendship. Anything.
I don't know. We had like
Anything.
4 episodes about hot dogs. So,
No.
like,
If you have the opportunity to get your room cleaned and freshened up with new towels and tight sheets and dusted and all this sort of thing, water's replenished, coffee pods replenished, I am taking that every single time. It's not even a discussion. There was a period of time where they were offering like points if you didn't get your room clean. I was like, no, keep your points.
Yeah.
I want my room clean.
So it obviously all kind of like started with COVID, right? And then I was just like, yeah, I don't need it. Like if it's one person and it's 4 days, there's at least 2 towels, sometimes 4 towels. I could still use a brand new towel every day.
I feel
No,
like
I need-
most of the hotels have the sign where they're like, if you want fresh towels, leave them on the ground or whatever. If you don't want to waste the water, you can hang your
'em up.
towels up.
Yeah.
I do that, but like I very much like how tightly they make a bed.
See, the first thing I do when I get into a tightly made bed is rip the sheets out from under the thing.
No,
'Cause
I
hate
love
that
it.
feeling.
I love it.
Just like, man,
Yeah.
this
No.
is yet again. Does Becky agree with you?
No, not.
Right.
She is not as strong on this. one as I am.
This is another thing that you and Kelly are the same, and me and Becky.
Oh,
are
is
the
Kelly
same.
like that?
Which is
Yeah, it is-
which is why we all it all works in our
why
respective little arrangements.
You work, we work, and we all work. There's just a perfect symbiotic balance between us all. Yeah, no, Becky definitely prefers having that.
But also, she likes. Does she like
Service.
tight sheets?
yeah.
Yeah, same. I cannot. Kelly immediately pulls sheets out from the bed, and I'm like tucking them in harder.
I have 2 follow-ups from last week's episode.
Okay.
One,
What did we
I got
talk
a
about last
facial.
week?
I got a facial after Alex talked about it. Big fan. Gonna make that part of my monthly routine. I enjoyed it. I don't know if it did anything for the skin on my face, but I just kind of like
It's
having
not
somebody
hurt
rub
it.
my
If you
face.
go to the gym once, it's not going to improve anything. It's like you gotta.
What? I've been wasting my time at the gym. Oh, never doing that again. Other follow up. I got a box of a bunch of Java House stuff, but I'm not convinced Alex didn't just send me that.
Hang on. We're not just leaving the facial thing at that. We are not just stopping. That was not a 1 sentence update.
Why?
I need specifics. Where did you go? Did you go on your own? Did you get a recommendation from someone? What kind of facial was it? How long did
you
it
have a
last? Walk me through
Groupon?
the process.
I don't know. I did have a Groupon. I did get a Groupon.
No way.
I mean, I'm gonna try it. You know, like I'm not gonna commit
so
full
good.
tilt if I don't know what it's like.
That's so good.
Oh, that is! I can't believe you called that, man. That's so good.
I got a Groupon for a place
Okay.
around the corner. It was it was this.
So it was suggested to you by Mr. Groupon.
Yeah, I went Groupon map walkable.
Copy.
Found a place.
Incredible.
It was awesome.
Incredible.
I was a big fan of it.
You went by yourself.
Yeah.
So what did they do? I don't even know what
you
goes
don't
into
go
it. What's-
with someone else to a facial.
Yeah, that would be weird.
I don't know.
It's a one-person show.
I
bro.
don't
You
know.
get
They
like a
like-
couple facial. Well,
I suppose we could. She had a real job, so like, I was texting her like what she was up to during the day, and she's like, "Oh yeah, work's been a bitch." I was like, "Yeah, me too. I'm getting a facial." She's like, "Didn't you get a massage earlier today?" I was like, "Yeah, but that was the morning. This is the afternoon."
You're like, this is research for the show. Alex talked about facials, and now I need to know what it's all about. So is it like what is it? How do you do it?
I don't
Like,
know.
what's the
I don't
review?
even know. They like just put stuff on my face. They did a mask. They did like a roller thing with some spikes or whatever that she said was like getting rid of the top layer of skin. And she's like be careful of direct sunlight today. I was like, well, I walked here, so that's going to be a problem.
I like all the layers of my skin. I don't know if I want to get rid of the top one.
She said it looked like I needed it. She said, yeah, I don't know. It was,
okay. Well,
it was
all right.
relaxing. I'm going to start doing it once a month, I think.
There
Is
you
that
go.
how often you go, Alex?
No, I'm probably once every 7-8 weeks. So 2 months.
Okay.
Call it.
All right. Okay. Now, the other part, though, I got a box of Java House stuff. It came in
Which
the morning the
hilarious.
episode was released, which the episode was me talking about not getting a box. Alex, I have to ask, did you just send me that or did it come from the team? Because there was no like note that it came from ECR. It was just very clearly from Amazon. So I kind of feel like Alex just sent me that.
Oh, yours from Amazon?
Yeah.
That was definitely Alex. Mine came from the team and had a nice letter, handwritten note from Ed.
Yeah. Okay. So Alex, thank you. I like all of them.
You know
So
what?
you're
It
doing
was
my
totally
part.
it was totally worth it just for the moment where you sent the text to the two of us being like, oh, man, sorry I was talking all that smack on the podcast. I just got a box of stuff. It was totally worth it just for that moment of you feeling like trash for being so mean.
The white peach tea, though. I like it.
What's important to remember in all this, Tim, was fundamentally you were not sent a box.
You know what, though? I still got a box, right?
Okay.
Like-
so for
like
you,
that
it's
was
less
the part
about
that was
the thought of it.
Yeah.
It's just the actual
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Good to know. You're very materialistic. More materialistic than I thought.
Hey,
you
you've
were.
seen my place. You see how much stuff I have. I'm
You do
obviously
like
very
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, you
big
do
fan of it.
hoard stuff.
There's a, I think Diamond Rio has a song about this. Just big fan of stuff.
I mean, stuff's neat. Stuff's cool. The meaning behind the stuff is also pretty. Well, it doesn't matter.
You know
Each
what?
their own.
Okay, cool. A team sent you something because you work for Fox. My friend sent me multiple things because he thought I was upset. That's
Out
a
of
pretty
my
good
own-
meaning.
Out of
his
my own bank
yeah.
account.
Yeah. I don't know.
Again.
That feels a little more meaningful to me.
It was
Sure
just
does.
to make you feel bad.
No, it wasn't.
You know what?
I felt bad he didn't
take it
get
that way.
anything.
Yeah.
I'm a nice person. People don't believe it. Nice guy. Anyways. I'm kidding. We should probably cut that. You know, you should
well,
just,
yes.
you should just,
I'll just
you should
bleep the name.
Yeah.
We did it, guys. We really did it here. We went and did it. We did racing.
We did racing, and we did racing. Well, from a event success standpoint, we did it well. From
Very
a
well.
TV success standpoint, we did it exceptionally well. Thank the sweet Lord, baby Jesus. From a racing product standpoint, not so well.
Not the best.
And we can talk about why that happened. And it's just, it's comical. It's typical IndyCar. Everyone's heart is in the right place, I think, when these decisions are made. But there's just never, I don't think, a full understanding of the repercussions of decisions sometimes. I don't know.
So,
but
are we talking about the new soft compound tire?
we are
Okay.
talking about that.
So, for a little bit of background,
And it's not new.
this, what do you mean? Oh, it's like 2023 or whatever.
Yeah.
New from last year.
Okay. I wouldn't say new. Different from last year.
Different from last year. So it was kind of put on Firestone to intentionally bring a soft that was a little bit softer, so that way it was a little faster, but then also had higher deg. Because
what was put on Firestone was not that. What was put on Firestone was they being IndyCar, wanted a larger separation between the compounds. So they wanted more of a pace difference
right,
between the alternate green Wiley tire.
do you agree with that direction?
I
Because
I
on the
agree
outside
with the
looking
pace
in,
difference.
it sounds like
Yes.
a good idea. Yeah,
I agree with the pace difference. Here's where it all fell apart. And I struggle to understand, I think, the decision, because there are very smart people at Firestone. There are very smart people at IndyCar on the competition side. And let me take this a step back. So there's been a big focus and a big priority this year that has kind of come a little bit from Fox, but also a little bit from IndyCar, to try and eliminate the races where the green flag drops and everyone just goes into an immediate fuel save because a fuel saving 2-stop is much quicker than a flat out 3-stop. Not much quicker, but it's marginally quicker, and you're avoiding all of the yellow risk with the IndyCar closed pit rules. And so what they're doing by extending some of these races is taking the 2-stop out of play. Yes, obviously, if there's a yellow flag early that's extended and all this stuff, it'll come back. But by just looking at it on paper in your pre-race strategy meeting, no one's going to try and do a 2-stop because the save to get the fuel number would be so much slower. It would never work. So some of these races, I think it's 5 races in total, distance increased, immediate 3-stop. It's going to be flat out the whole way. Going to be awesome. Better for the show, better for Fox, better for fans, more physical on drivers, less of an emphasis on fuel saving technique, more of an emphasis on outright pace and who has the better car and balance and all that sort of thing. I agree with all of that completely. What happened this weekend was they wanted a bigger separation between the two compounds. I'm for it. I agree with it. I don't know if it was taken into consideration that I'm sure it was, but I don't know if there was enough emphasis placed on the fact that between 2024, when we were at St. Pete last, obviously, and this year, there's a very big difference in the cars. There's an extra almost 100 pounds. There's the hybrid. There's all of these things that are going to be very detrimental to the life, durability, and performance of the tire.
Right. Because hybrid came in middle of last year, so this was the first time with it at St. Pete.
Exactly. And so to go so aggressive as to go to the 2023 tire, which had quite a bit of degradation on the alternate, to the point where I think only 2 cars made it beyond like 24 laps, 25 laps, and the stint is 31 laps. And it was Grosjean, who was in clean air, and it was Pato, I think, who was just hanging on for dear life.
Grosjean?
In 2023, yes. He was losing the race.
I thought we were talking about this weekend.
A mile.
Oh,
No.
yes. Yeah.
So back to 2023. A lot of deg on the alternate. But that tire couldn't do a full stint. You introduce all of the weight and the extra power that's going through the rear axle, the extra demand on the rear tires through the braking process and the regen and all that sort of thing. It's not too far-fetched to understand that what happened makes sense, because the tire with a car that was almost 100 pounds lighter struggled to make a tire last. So obviously the car is 100 pounds heavier, that's producing more horsepower in the traction zones of corners, is going to eat through tires. So that is what ended up happening. And the sad part of it is the whole push in this offseason from IndyCar is to eliminate these fuel saving races. And what ended up happening is no one could run the alternate tire long enough that it ended up being just a massive fuel saving race, because everyone was just trying to run the alternate for as little time as possible. So that's my only disappointment with this whole situation, was not that the tire was bad. The tire was a good tire. It had great grip out of pit lane. It was good for, I love the kind of 1-lap shootout style qualifying. There was no, it wasn't blistering. It wasn't falling apart, but it's this tire was never good enough from a durability standpoint to be able to handle the weight of this car, which is why we ended up getting the race that we got. Ultimately, same for everyone. Everyone had to deal with it. Just a little bit of a shame that it wasn't more of a barn burner event, and that the guys that started on the alternate just literally drove around for one corner. Yellow happened, pitted, got off of them, and ran the primes for the rest of the race. So it's it's a bummer. But
I mean, without that first lap caution, it's a little bit different, right? Because all the guys that started on the softs, they would have had to at least run a certain number of laps. And then their fuel saving wouldn't be quite, it would be a 3-stopper, and the fuel saving in the other stints wouldn't be as bad. They literally pit on lap 3 because it was under caution. And then they're just doing essentially a 2-stopper 97-lap race rather than a 3-stopper 100-lap race. And so, it's massive fuel save, and that's why there wasn't a ton of action.
But I feel like everyone knew there was going to be a caution on lap 1. That's just St. Pete. Race 1 of IndyCar,
the first 3 laps or whatever it is.
So wait, but if that's the case, and sorry if this is an insensitive question, why didn't you start on the softers so that you would be able to come in and pit?
No, that's a fair question because I would have been 15th on that strategy versus 5th on the alternate. And if that first caution doesn't come out and the predicted stint length that people were going to get out of the tires was the 5 to 11 laps, we were going to have a huge advantage and hopefully be able to build on that throughout the race. Instead, all those guys essentially got a free pit stop. And the people that started on the primes had to make up the 28 and a half seconds because we had to do an extra stop under green flag conditions. And that was always a risk that we knew we were going to take, but you'd rather be 5th on the alternate strategy than 15th on the primary.
100%. Yeah.
Makes total sense. Yeah. And you
I was incredibly surprised though. And I'm just, I'd be interested in hearing your opinion, James. How many cars in the top 6 started on primes? Insane. And the fact that the MSR cars didn't even split strategies. They qualified 4th and 5th and both started on primes. Why wouldn't you put one on the alternate? Whatever. Like, how do you both do the same thing?
It was like 5 in the top 6. I think.
I know, and that was the wrong strategy. I thought when I saw that tire declaration, I was like, "Oh, Colton's going to win this by a freaking country mile."
And as soon as the yellow came out in turn 1, and he came out 10th. He was 10th with his first stop done.
Yeah,
like it was game over. If he hadn't had a bad second stop, and then an unnecessary third stop, and then let's not even talk about what happened in the pits for that car, but that was his race. I mean, it was his race. They called it right. He was quick. Whatever. And I remember speaking to him after the declaration came out, and I was like, dude, what's going on? He goes, I don't know what we're missing, but we're either going to look really smart or really dumb.
They weren't missing anything. Like that was, I was stunned with how many people up there were on it. I figured there was an outside chance without ignoring the logic that you just said, which a lot of people would have to take into account if you're outside the top 15 or whatever, right? You're going to, outside the top 12, you're probably going to look at being the first driver on the alternate strategy sort of thing. Yep.
But with how bad the softs were, it would not have surprised me if it was I think only once in my career I've ever seen every single car start on the same compound. I was half expecting that at St. Pete. I was like, nah, someone will roll the dice and do something different, but like it's so bad. Like everybody knows the ideal strategy is this. For the pole sitter to not do it, for the second row to not do it, I really don't understand what they were thinking. And even though Colton got boned, like, you know, Scotty Mack obviously was on pole. He was the leader on that strategy. He came home 4th, right? And that's with the problem that Colton had. Marcus got held up on a stop as well. Like he probably should have been like 5th or 6th. And that would have been the best you could have done on that strategy. I don't know. It was a weird move, man. Very weird move.
Yeah. Yeah.
So first time at St. Pete with the hybrid, just in general, did it feel any different? Was anything different? I mean, obviously we saw some issues in turn 3 in practice. Is that just because?
I mean, mine broke in the race, so I don't know. I didn't really race with it. So that's cool. That's awesome.
Well, at least you had that extra weight.
Just carrying around 100 pounds for no reason. So that's just, yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you want ballast that costs $300,000? Like, why wouldn't you want that? Like, it's
the best.
I mean, now we have so much more like weight distribution to play with. Anyways, what did the hybrid do? The hybrid, so they've increased the energy limit that you can use throughout the lap. So basically, IndyCar, Chevrolet, and Honda compared to last year,
wasn't it track specific last year?
Yes, but it was still much higher than anything that was last year.
Okay,
so like
right,
their goal is to increase it.
Has moved up. Right.
Yes, exactly. It was supposed to be even higher than it was in St. Pete, but Christian, my teammate, had a failure in Sebring, which kind of caught everyone by surprise because they had done like 3,500 plus miles on the dyno at this increased energy limit level and had no problems and this sort of thing. Obviously, thankfully, something popped up in testing, didn't ruin anyone's weekend, but they backed it down. And so they're just trying to ensure that the reliability is there for everyone before they, continue to ask more of the hybrid, which is obviously the right thing to do. But
for sure,
because they increased the energy limit, like there's actually more performance and more lap time coming out of the hybrid than there was last year. Last year, I think the most we ever saw, like a lap of using it versus not using it, was almost 0.2 seconds. I think that was at Mid Ohio. keep in mind that most of the races that we did last year were on ovals with the hybrid. It was only Mid-Ohio, Portland, and Toronto. So Mid-Ohio was the biggest delta of the hybrid. This year, I think we're expecting to see kind of more in the 3.5, 4 tenths range, which is, I mean, double, and is a useful tool at that point of like making a difference of teams and drivers that are maximizing it and utilizing it right and that sort of thing. So that's all good. So I will say that the hybrid definitely had a bit more of an impact. You felt it more. In theory, you could have used it in the race. I didn't, but in theory, that would have helped.
When did yours go?
I don't know off the top of my head, somewhere in the 20 to 30 range.
Is it like just super second nature now? Like you get to St. Pete, you know your spots on track where you're supposed to deploy it. It regens automatically, and it's now just like muscle memory. You don't even think about it. Kind of thing.
I mean, the only thing that you're kind of managing is, especially in St. Pete. So whenever you have these kind of fuel saving races, so the number one way that you save fuel, as we've talked about on the show a lot, is you do what's called lift and coast. So you lift off at the end of the straightaway, have a coast phase, and then you hit the brake, whereas in qualifying, it's just immediate throttle to brake. In the coast phase, the more time you have off throttle is, in theory, the more time you're going to have regenning the energy. So if your lifts are getting bigger and bigger and bigger because you're hitting a bigger and bigger fuel number, you have to turn down the regen gain so that you're not filling the battery in like weird places, right? So that's the only thing you're kind of managing, is like your fuel number decreases, meaning you're saving more fuel and lifting more. You're also decreasing the efficiency of the regen on the off throttle time. But other than that, it's all super second nature.
So when you're doing that, is that something that you as the driver are just sort of feeling out? Like, okay, you're starting to lift into turn 1 at St. Pete. So you know through experience that that amount of lift to get the same amount of regen in that longer amount of time, you pull it back X amount, or do you have to like do a couple laps and sort of see where the state of charge is by the end of a given brake zone? Can you feel it if it maxes out before you get to when you transition over the brake?
You can certainly feel it if it reaches a full state of charge in the middle of the braking zone. You kind of have in like your pre-event meeting, you'll have, all right, if we're hitting a 95, you're going to want to be in white X. If you're hitting a 90, you're going to want to be in white. And then you can adjust the finite gain up or down based on that. But you kind of have a baseline knowledge of what block you want to be in, depending on kind of what fuel number you're trying to hit.
And so as the driver, do you just know all that? Or like when the team says, hey, we need this amount of save, go to white 2. Like, is that part of the message? Or are you like, okay, I know this amount of save is in that setting range?
So it's both, but the big thing is, so it is a powerful tool because it does affect the balance. So sometimes what you'll want to do is you'll want to have, you won't want to reduce because it helps slow down the car, right? So it gives you braking depth the more regen you have. So there might be a white or whatever rotary, it's different for every team. There might be a regen offset that is the most efficient way of doing it, but you would rather say, okay, I would rather deploy slightly less efficiently and make sure my state of charge is lower going into this braking zone because I feel like I can get more lap time or my car balance is better. Like, let's take, for example, turn 1. It's a great example because it's a super challenging braking zone because it's a runway. As you know, James, when you're kind of turning from the outside wall to the apex, you're crossing paint, which is substantially less grip than the tarmac on the runway and that sort of thing. So even if, the most efficient way to have the ultimate lap time with the hybrid is to, let's say, drain to 30% state of charge out of turn 14 down the front straight. But if you're lifting and coasting, the 30% is going to fill up in that braking zone, and that's a bad thing. What I would rather do, instead of turning the regen down, I would rather deploy an extra 20% to 10% to ensure it doesn't top up then, and I'm not losing the engine braking, the deceleration capability in turn 1 because it's like such a challenging entry to that corner. So that's a very we're getting
That's
inside
cool.
baseball here. It's a complicated way of explaining it, but it is driver specific. It is car specific. There's different mapping that teams do. Like coming from McLaren, they were obviously with all of the F1 experience and resources that they had, as well as Formula E. Like they were getting very trick and aggressive with, blending the regen with, different throttle mapping and rev ranges and all that sort of thing. And it was a really like clever way of utilizing it for peak performance. Whereas at ECR, it's more like it's on or off, and we're working on, the tuning and shaping of it. But it is car, team, driver, track dependent.
That's fascinating. That's cool. Because it does. It makes you think a little bit. It's not what I think one of the big fears of the hybrid has always been. Before it was introduced, was that everybody would find how to optimize it, and then everybody would just be doing the exact same thing at all times, and there was no differentiation, and it was just sort of there. But I
think that's certainly the case in qualifying. But in the race, there's much more windows to play with to make it more useful for yourself.
For single lap optimization, to deploy X% here, X% here, X% there, and that's your lap. Right.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. So your race, we talked about it. You started on the hards to try to do that alternate strategy. The yellow sort of boned you. Spent a bunch of laps up front. I think it was you and Lundgaard, right? Kind of were the leaders on that strategy.
Dude, I texted my old engineer is still on the 7 car. And I texted him after the race, and I was like, there was no worse car for me to stare at the back of for 100 laps. I was so annoyed that I was just looking at this papaya number 7 for my entire day. I was like, why couldn't it have been literally anyone else? Like, Pato would have been fine. Why did it have to be that car?
I did have that thought. I didn't mention it on air, but I did have that thought that I'm like, yeah, he probably don't love that.
No, I didn't like that at all. But no, just to give a quick summary of our weekend, it was an uphill battle through some of it. Poor execution qualifying, but ultimately, and it's kind of what I explained to you after Sebring, there's some really good underlying foundational properties of an ECR IndyCar, like some really nice things that bring me back to like the 2018-19 Andretti car feedback standpoint. So I'm very optimistic about what we can do. Like the team I didn't do a single pit stop going into this weekend. Like they executed on pit lane, the strategy calls were right. The development of like chasing the evolution of the setup throughout the weekend was spot on. We know street courses are not our thing. So like we're very optimistic and think we can have a really good weekend in thermal. So this was always going to be a get through it, try and survive. We were able to do that. So I think everyone is content with how the weekend, obviously you're never going to be happy with 10th, but in terms of like the debut of this new ECR organization, the fan feedback and response to the new colors and the brand and all that sort of thing, and the job house activation, everything was just, I think, a huge success for the first weekend as a new group, let's call it. So thankful for that.
Yeah, more positives to take away than negatives from the weekend, 100%. Certainly.
Yep.
Have you watched the race back?
I have not watched the race back because I went to every effort to record it on YouTube TV, because there's no Peacock anymore, right? To record it on YouTube TV, and I've tried 3 different times to record it or to watch it, and it says playback is unavailable.
I'm actually kind of glad that you brought this up, Alex, because I've been hearing from a few people similar that, we don't just have a streaming platform you can log on to and watch a replay like in years past, but very shortly after the race, IndyCar on Fox YouTube channel actually has the whole broadcast on there. So
they did it immediately, right?
Yeah, it's
because there used to be like a window of time between checkered and when it would be on YouTube.
Sometimes
and now
it's like 24 hours or whatever. And but there's a 15-minute highlights reel, or there is the full like 2-hour broadcast. There's all sorts of stuff. There's interviews. There are onboard laps, qualifying stuff. So if you miss anything on FS2, FS1, or on Fox, head to IndyCar on Fox as a YouTube channel, and you can see all the stuff, see all the fun stuff that's happening.
Somebody who did watch it, well done, James. You and the team did a very good job. I know you said it was a little chaotic being the first one, room to grow, room to improve, but I thought you guys did a great job. And hell of an audience, right? 1.4 million people watched.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, look, it was a weekend from the old TV compound, let me tell you. The viewership number is obviously fantastic. It's a great place to be to start this relationship. Peaking at 1.8 million, average 1.4 is huge. It's the promotions worked, everything, leading up to it obviously is going well. So that's, a 45% increase over last year, the largest non-Indy 500 audience since 2011. And what's cool is like, I've been having this conversation with teams and other drivers and stuff. When you're an IndyCar salesperson and you're for the series, for a team, whatever, and you're now talking to companies, to sponsors about viewership numbers, right? Yes, our Sunday viewership is up a good chunk, and hopefully that's a trend we can keep going. But let's not forget that practice 1, practice 2, qualifying, and warm-up were all also on linear TV. So you can add those numbers in as like a weekend viewership, a weekend number, not just the Sunday number. So it's going to be like, you could probably add another, I actually don't know the numbers to that, but I'm going to assume you could add another 300,000 to 400,000 over the weekend in the shows ahead of that, to that weekend number. So it's huge for teams that desperately need, more sponsorship as the cost of IndyCar racing has gone up. We now have a very serious increase in value as a result of what's transpiring on TV, which is huge. The weekend itself, first race with a lot of new stuff, not a lot of new people. It was a unbelievable effort from everybody on the Fox Sports broadcast and from IMSP to get that show going. IndyCar, I guess, had a slightly different timing and scoring system this year, which I know created some problems in pit lane as well, and that affected certain things for us. So, like when I look back at the broadcast and I listen to some of the comments and read some of the comments online or whatever, first of all, thank you guys. Overwhelmingly positive, which is huge, and we all appreciate it. Certainly some suggestions of things that fans would like to see.
Yeah, I can tell you.
You did. I can tell you that a majority of what was received from fans in terms of that, we already know, and it's already been worked on. It's just some of it wasn't ready in time for this weekend. Some of it, because of some of the changes on other things that were outside of our control, wasn't available. So we know 99% of what fans were talking about that they wanted to see. And it was all things considered, I think, a huge success. The whole broadcast team, right from, the producer Pam Miller and, the execs at Fox Sports, Shanks, Zager, Ullman, and then, Pam Miller, who's kind of the leader of the team. On that side, the new director, Mitch, was learning how to direct a motor race throughout the weekend. I thought everybody did a tremendous job. Again, there was so many little fires that we had to put out throughout the course of the weekend, but we got it done. And again, it's a massive, massive team effort. Really, really proud of the group. Really proud of Will. I thought he did a great job. First time, calling.
I thought he was
race.
amazing. And this is not at all a dig on Lee, because I think Lee is also amazing. It was crazy, like how different they were in their styles, but I truly enjoy both. Like Diff,
that's just
Diff
it, right?
is just going to be Diff is Diff.
Yeah, Diff is Diff, and will go down into the sports broadcasting Hall of Fame as an absolute legend. But the point was always kind of that it was supposed to have a bit of a different feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Will was always going to have a bit of a different vibe, and I thought it was great. I thought it sounded great. His preparation was off the charts. I mean, he was so committed to making sure he knew his stuff. And apologize for the dog barking in the background.
We haven't had that in a while. Teddy, you want to add something to this broadcast?
That's an off-track staple we need to bring back.
Yeah.
So yeah, Will did a great job, and then Jack. I mean, man, what a trooper! I know hopefully you guys listened to the Tuesday show, and we got to chat to him about that first day on the job on the broadcast side of things. But I thought he did a phenomenal job as well. So look, I can't thank everyone who tuned in enough, and we hear your feedback. We appreciate the feedback. There's so much cool stuff that's still coming, and just I really can't wait for Thermal, because we're just going to keep getting better as a group, and we're going to keep making it better.
So I have one question. Obviously, everyone's talked about like the drivers are cartoonized or animated, cartoonized.
Yeah.
Are you?
No. I've had a few people ask if they did that for the three of us, and they have not, to my knowledge.
Bummer.
Kind of on Off Track's logo.
Well, okay. Yes. Yeah.
I'm talking about Fox. but Off Track logo doesn't give him abs.
That's
whereas
fair.
Fox gives abs. Yeah.
Okay, can we all agree?
Everyone's got abs on a Fox Sports broadcast.
Right.
Can we all agree Scotty Max was the worst?
Scotty Max was not great. Nolan looks like a Beavis and Butthead character. Something about the mouth just didn't look right there. Colton's tweet about Scotty Max picture was pretty funny. that one got me going.
All right. So you talked about all of the good things that have come about it. You talked about like first weekend, like there's obviously going to be that hits the fan at different points, all this sort of thing. Has there been feedback at this point that you've heard from Fox, like corporate
commandments from on high?
Yeah, yes. I think the overall feeling of it was very, very positive. You know, and they were all there. Like a lot of the big guys were there. It was great to have them on. Did they like site for it?
Forget the result of the TV numbers. Forget, the quality of the broadcast or whatever was good, bad, and different. Did they like the event? Like, I'm sure it was the first time for some of them being to one.
For sure. Yeah. For some of them, it was first time at St. Pete, first time at IndyCar race. And I mean, look, man, nobody leaves St. Pete as a first time attendee and thinks, that like,
fair.
It's such a good event, right? It's not. No, it is not, on so many levels and for so many reasons and in so many ways. But no, they had a great time. Very proud of the whole group, because there was just fires being put out left, right, and center. It's going to be infinitely easier for everyone in the production truck, knock on wood, next time out in Thermal, if all these little things kind of get fixed. Because you guys had some issues with timing and scoring in pit lane as well, right? That was like a systemic thing.
There was a lot of IndyCar network issues. I mean, I think people, maybe they realize, maybe they don't, but like every single team has an IT person now. Like so much of everything that we're doing is all network based. It's the same for the series, the same for Firestone, Cosworth, Chevy, Honda. So there's a lot of demand. And sometimes the first weekend out, after everything's been sitting in a box for 7 months, just doesn't go as smoothly as you would think. But yeah, I think that was an IndyCar thing, not anything you guys were doing.
Yeah, and that's again, it's not a shot at IndyCar. Look, you say everyone's doing it again for the first time in 6 months. It's a temporary circuit. It's hard to get stuff moved around and wired, and like the logistical effort of getting all that stuff up and running is a nightmare. But yeah, as a result, there's lots of cool stuff that we weren't able to do that we have coming. That's on the cards already.
I mean, so I imagine you guys missed my onboard so badly. Like it didn't work, and you must have been like, man, this race would be so much better if I could talk about Alex and just show people the magic that he's doing inside the car.
Just watch him tickling the controls of that Java House rocket. We needed a little more Java House in that.
My buttons and my
using your buttons.
Using my buttons.
Holding that girthy wheel of yours and tickling those buttons.
My wheel is very phallic. Every time, no, like people come by, like the grips, right? So people come by.
Are weird, man.
They're weird. So weird. Everyone comes by, and I'm so self-conscious about it now because everyone's like, "Oh, I want to see a steering wheel," right? And so I just hold.
Hey, Christian, can we borrow your wheel?
I just hold the tops of the grips so that they can like look at it without hopefully putting two and two together.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's fair. But yeah, look, congrats, obviously to Pillow on just the most Pillow-like win. And then...
Do you want to know what's phenomenal? Like, he wasn't fast. I'm not saying he didn't do a great job. I'm not saying that the team didn't do a great job. I'm not saying he's not deserving. But, like, he was not fast in the race.
Do you want to know what's interesting? Is he was only fast in that final stint. Like, I'm going to say this in a way that... And you might want to combat it a little bit. But, like, he was fast when he had to be. Because you know how hard it was to pass, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
And so, but like when he was out front, he was quick and he pulled away from guys. He was fast. I do feel for Dixon.
Well, I feel for Joseph because Joseph was the fastest car on track. And
Okay.
the only reason, quite frankly, in my mind, Joseph didn't win is because the team missed the fuel. Like they didn't get his.
Is that what happened? Did they
mileage he had
short
to
fill
hit.
him on the
Yeah.
stop?
I don't know if they short filled him or if they just thought that they could cut him loose and he could do whatever fuel number he wanted or not. But like, regardless, the last 2 laps, they were like, you're out of fuel. You're hosed, sort of thing.
Yeah, but it's tough to pass. I know Pelot caught traffic, and so Joseph closed up 5 seconds or whatever, but then it's still tough to actually get by a guy.
That's fair. Yeah.
But dude, the way like when Dixon came out of the pits, yeah, because like 50 laps in, I was like, Scott's gonna win this race. Once Colton had his problem, I like was doing the math and everything. I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna do it. Dixon's finally gonna win at St. Pete. And then that last stop, and they're like, and here's the blend with Pelot, and we were like, where the did he come from? We hadn't even mentioned him. Like, we had no eyes on Pelot. It was incredible. And then we're like, oh, I guess he's like super leading the race now. It's okay. All right. I guess that's a thing. It is remarkable, man. And like, obviously, so Scott lost his radio at some point in the race, wasn't able to pit when he was supposed to, caught traffic. And that's kind of where Pelot ultimately got him in the exchange. Worst case was going to be second for Alex. But I mean, you could see how bitter Scott was at the end, because that one, he was kind of like, I don't say he's robbed, because again, Pelot did a great job, but Scott didn't have all the tools available to him that you normally do have. And so it essentially robbed him of a win at a place. Only 4 tracks on the calendar he's not won at. And he's come second there 4 times. Still hasn't won at Barber. He's come second there 6 times. I can't wait to get to Barber. I really hope he wins Barber, just for his sake.
I don't.
It's just, I know you don't, but I don't, I just.
You're like, I don't care.
Hey, Alex, I thought you loved Barber.
Anyways, guys, I think that's going to do it for this week.
Yeah.
I am, speaking of Barber, I am testing there next week. So
Cool.
we get to talk about that on next week's episode. We get to hear about how, yet again, we have another new tire. Who knows if we're going to test on it, but we're going to have one. So should be cool.
Guys, thanks for listening.
Thanks
forget
for
we're on
watching.
YouTube, but thanks
Not
for
us.
watching.
Thanks
the
for
race.
watching Fox. Yeah. we
Thanks
love
for
you
tuning
that.
in. Do not forget about practices on FS1. Do not forget about qualifying. The warm-up show was something totally different. Alex, I want you to check that out. Tell me what you think about that.
Our good friend, Stephen Bischoff, was harping on about warm-up. He loved the couch setup. He heard that came from Will Buxton. He loved the interviews. He loved that whole sort of thing. So I actually have seen warm-up because he said that it was like some of the greatest warm-up TV he's ever watched. And I have to agree.
The best warm-up TV for sure.
I have to agree.
It was at 6
pretty
a.m.
good.
for me.
It was pretty good. It's pretty
You
good.
can go watch it on
Sounds like- it
IndyCar
sounds
on
like-
Fox YouTube.
It sounded like you guys knew what you were talking about, which is shocking to me. But
It's a nice rarity. It's a it's a rarity thing. That's anyway. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next week. We'll talk Barber, pre-Sebring, and whatever other good stuff happens between now and then. This has been Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Off Track is part of the SiriusXM Sports Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, please give a 5-star rating and leave a review. Subscribe today wherever you stream your podcasts. We are at Ask Off Track on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, we're at Hinchtown and at Alexander Rossi. If you want to follow Tim, though we have no idea why you would, he's at the Tim Durham on Twitter. Find us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for exclusive video content. Off Track is produced by Tim Durham, and by that we mean Tim.